Hi everyone, welcome to Reactivated. Now, for this edition and for the next few editions, this is all going to be one take. So the twist for this one is anything could happen. I could forget something. I don't know. I could lose something. I could give you some kind of wrong information. I could make a mistake or swear. Hopefully not. So there we go. Let's see how we get on. All one take. And here we go. So first of all is bot bit on the screen behind. You will see a close-up of a robot, but for this edition we want the series, not the robot in question. The robot's probably just the clue for this, but we want the series. So here we go behind. Can you guess which series this close-up takes place? We'll let you know a little bit later in the show. So we might now move on to fantasy fights. As we can see, the return of the pencil case. Straight knockout, so we're going to do another tournament. The first two robots completely selected at random. I'm hoping I select a robot we've not had in the past, but you never know, that could change dramatically. I might even change it myself. Oh, here we go. So Gemini, there we go. Gemini is first up against, let's have a look. Oh, 13 black. Hey, that's not a bad round, is it? 13 black against Now, this is actually quite a good. This is quite a good draw. This, because if you think about it, both have two weapons of the same type, two flippers and two flywheels. So, what do you do here? I think weight-wise, I think Gemini would struggle here with the destructive power that was 13 black, because even when we saw it throughout Series 6 and Extreme 2, it used to spin as well. It's like a third weapon. It used to spin on its axis and cause devastation. Nearly beat Razor, if I seem to recall, in All-Stars 2. I don't think Gemini could withstand the punishment because it was quite lightweight. And also, do you think the flippers in Gemini from Series 5 reduced in power somewhat? So, for me, yeah, two flippers. It's like Chaos 2 hit with this final, isn't it? But this time, I think the flywheels will outdo the twins of Gemini. So 13 black. Do we have time for another quick head-to-head? We do. Let's quickly get this on. We have PP3D. There we go. So, oh God. So PP3D versus... oh my goodness me, Foxic. Hey, that's a clash from the newer series, isn't it? Well, goodness me, I'll be very quick with this one. Foxic, very small robot, did very well, considering. PP3D, I think would get the disc, because the disc, of course, was quite close to the floor, and also Foxic was quite low to the floor, so I think there's again, another good contest there. But I do think PP3D would obliterate Foxic, just because of the size, really, and the devastating weapon that PP3 did have. So there we go. We have two flywheels through to the second round. That's 13 black and PP3D. Now let's move on to a what if. Okay. There we go. So we've done a couple of what ifs in the past, where we rewrite history, should we say. So this time we're going to be asking, what if Razor hadn't broken down in Series 3? Okay, because this was really frustrating. There were several fights in Series 3 that really frustrated me. Of course, one of them being Cassius 2 being knocked out, but I think also Razor for me is the most frustrating. Obviously coming back from Series 2 being... well, he was immobilised, wasn't he? He was just broke down. Series 3, of course, losing to Agrabah in the second round. But we just go back to where his first round fight, of course, who was it? Oh, he had that stabbing sort of hammer thing on the back of him.
Backstabber.
Who was it again?
Yeah, round one backstabber.
It was a backstabber. That makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah, stabbing thing on the back. Backstabber. Then, of course, Agrabah. Pretty much the fight was done, wasn't it? Claw went right through Agrabah's body, and it was over. There was Agrabah was limping. So for me, obviously, Razor would have definitely won against Agrabah. Then would have been against Blade in the Heat final. Once again, how Blade even made it through, I have no idea. But there you have it. Again, there's no contest. Blade against Razor. Razor Blade. Razor would have totally owned Blade and easily won the Heat. It was easily the best robot of the Heat, Razor. Then would have got through, because of course Blade then met Beast of Bodmin, but Razor would have met Beast of Bodmin in the first round of the semis. Now if you look back to when Beast of Bodmin was against Crusher in its Heat, Crusher would very nearly beat Beast of Bodmin if it wasn't for the tracks coming off Crusher. So easily, the body of Beast of Bodmin, not the strongest. Razor would have easily got in and destroyed Beast of Bodmin. So without a doubt, through to round 2 of the semi-finals, where they would have met Stegosaurus, of course, and Stegosaurus versus Razor. I'm being a bit predictable here, but again, I think there's no contest at all. Okay, Stegosaurus had the power, but other than that, Razor had the manoeuvrability. Razor had the weaponry, because Stegosaurus didn't really have a weapon, did it? So it would have easily got through the shell, grappled the shell, pushed it into a house robot, flipped it over potentially with its back lifter, little spike. Easily, I think Stegosaurus would have lost that, which then would have led through to the first round of the grand final, where they would have been up against Hypnodisc. This was the one fight across the whole series that we wanted to see, wasn't it? We never got to see it. Hypnodisc versus Razor. Oh, I think Series 3 version of Hypnodisc wasn't as strong, obviously, as later series. And Razor being quite manoeuvrable, and the fact that Hypnodisc's disc seemed to have slowed down an awful lot, hadn't it? Its destructive power sort of downgraded, didn't it, as the Hypnodisc's battles went on. And I think Razor would have just got round the back with its manoeuvrability, clawed it down, and owned it, moved it about. So I think Razor would have won that fight. And of course then Razor versus Chaos 2. Well, we saw this fight in the World Championships, didn't we, in the first World Championships. And we all know what happened. Razor again getting round the back, piercing Chaos 2's canister. I actually think Razor would have won Series 3. I do. Can you let me know, though, what you think in the comments below? Do you think Razor, if it hadn't broken down in its heats in round 2, would have won Series 3? I think it would have done. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Right, so next is move on to Fighting Talk. Going to be quite brief. How we do is I've got my chap behind me just keeping an eye on the time. He's going to push down on the cease button when the 15 minutes is up. We're going to be talking, as you can see, Razor versus Tornado in the European Championships. A very long time ago now, I did briefly touch on a Fighting Talk edition of Razor and Tornado in the 6th Grand Final. This time, of course, they met again in the European Championships a year later in Extreme 2. For me, I really wanted this grudge match with the frame again. It was all about, for me, Razor trying to get back on one from Tornado, because I know there's a lot of debate that Tornado cheated, but for me personally, that Series 6 Grand Final was fair. Check out Reactivated 1 for my analysis on that fight. But I think this time Razor were very dominant. They just changed very slightly the design of the hook, didn't they, to get Tornado up. As you can see, dragged them towards the pit, which they did much earlier than they did in the fight towards the pit. It was only, of course, after then that Razor won the fight, but then conceded because of the motor that blew out, and they very graciously handed the fight over to Tornado. So really, yeah, Razor won again for me. That was me. But this decision to let Tornado go through caused the team to break up. It was Razor's last fight of the original run, and the team parted ways thereafter after their disagreement. So there we go. For me, Razor did win that fight. Let's now move on to the merchandise memory section. Now, we're going to review the next batch of robots that we got as part of the next stage, wasn't it? The next wave. I had a problem really with all 6 of these robots. They were great though. Of course we played them. But for me, I've got the Chaos 2 toy here. For me, the Chaos 2 toy, it flipped fine, but then quite a lot of the hinge here kept coming off, didn't it? So you couldn't actually use the flipper again. And we went through, as you can see, several Chaos 2s for this, and we spent quite a lot of money. It was its only real, I don't know, design flaw. The back panel, of course, came off as well. A Chaos 2 here, this is the Chaos 2 that we did eventually use in the show. We just used it, we managed to get our fingers underneath and use it as a flipper. But as you can see on the original, it flipped. And you can see here, even there though, the second one that we purchased, ooh, you just didn't really want to close it back down because you were afraid of that little hinge getting in the way and coming off. Did any of you have a problem with Chaos 2? That little hinge breaking? I think there was quite a lot of issues there with the toy. And of course, they did come, the Chaos 2 toy came with the barrels, which we still have. And of course, the balls here. And we've got one here somewhere. There we go. The idea, of course, would be for Chaos 2 to get underneath the barrels, the cones, and flip. So there we go. Chaos 2, for me, very badly designed. It looked great as a toy. I mean, it looked pretty much like the actual robots, didn't it, on the telly? But for me, the design flaw, and there are quite a few design flaws in this next batch that we're going to review, just really killed the excitement and fun out of Chaos 2 in the end. Sadly. So yes, there you can see the original board there. That's Chaos 2, and of course the next competitor that was available at the same time was Razor. Razor is somewhere there for a later review, and there we go. That's the toy from Chaos 2 that we had. That was the first edition of the new batch, wasn't it? The Chaos 2 toy to join Hypnodisc, so you could have a fight with Hypnodisc. Chaos 2 Hypnodisc repeated the Third Wars Grand Final. So there we go. I did have a problem with that hinge, but let me know in the comments if you had the same problem as we move on to we move now on to just going back to Bot Bit from the start of the show. We showed you a close-up of a robot, but we wanted the series. I think this was quite a difficult one. It was actually Cobra from Series 9. Series 9 of Robot Wars. So, there we go. Well done if you got that. We're just going to quickly move on to your questions. We're going to try and get through as many questions as we can in the time that we have left. Not much. We have one here from Frontios1014. If you were a competitor taking part in events, which robot from your series, so our series, would you use to compete? Ooh! Obviously, I'm not going to state the obvious here because, you know, revolutionists. No, I don't think I would actually. I'd actually use, for originality, I'd use APD3 because we never actually saw a robot in the actual show that could survive the pit. So for me, and also the power of APD's little lifter was enough to actually catapult the robots out of the arena. So for me, thank you from Frontiers 1014, I would use APD3. Yes, to survive the pit. It's as simple as that. We now go on to another question from. Let me get me. No, we don't. Oh no! Okay. so there we go. Only one time for one question. I do apologise. I've got loads of questions. Obviously, being all one take. My lovely guy behind the camera has just pressed down on the so I've got to wrap it up. Thank you all so much for watching. More questions to follow in the next edition. We'll see you then. Thank you.